Hey, so I'm Matt. I'm one of the co-founders of Insert Learning, but I'm also a full-time high school science teacher. So I am going to share how it is that I use Insert Learning with Google Classroom, which I use every single day with my students and their Chromebooks. So I've already found my article that I wanted to do. This one looked really great. It was on HuffPost, so I've got my students going out there, kind of reading things that are really out there that I think is going to catch their attention and my students are going to connect with. So I'm going to load Insert Learning on this article. And so I've already started by adding in some annotation instructions. I always like to have that so that my students gets them to take a little bit more time as they're reading through and think about a little bit more about what they're reading. I'm going to go ahead and embed a question here. And I'll kind of like add in a couple of different things like summarize the above text, or what do you kind of already know about some of these things. So I'd like to just kind of scaffold a little bit with a few questions as we're going through. And I'll put another one down here. Right, so write one question that you have. That's another really good one that I like to have. All right, so we've gone through, we've added in our questions, our instructions, maybe we'll throw in a video or discussion or some other notes, but we're essentially done right now. So now what we'll do is we're now going to assign that lesson. So I already have a lot of classes, and if you don't have any classes at all yet, you can create one, but you're using Google Classroom, so what you can do is you can then click on the Google Classroom button right here. And what this will do is now it'll pull all of your current classes from Google Classroom into your Insert Learning window right here. Now, if this is the first time you're using Google Classroom with Insert Learning, there will be another pop-up that'll ask you for permissions so that Insert Learning can access your Google Classroom stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and select my class. Now, if you haven't imported your class from Classroom, that's fine. What it will actually do then is it'll pop up and it'll just ask you, say, hey, we need to now import your class, and then you're all good. So you can schedule it from here, or you can just simply go ahead and share it directly to my class. Now, for this, I just want to share it directly to my class. So I can go and click that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Just go ahead and wait till it finishes spinning. And so now what it's doing is it's actually assigning it out to Google Classroom. And I'll show you what that looks like then next after we've done that. So we're done. It's now assigned to our class. And I'm going to show you too of over here. It's also going to show you that it's assigned to your Insert Learning class because there's an Insert Learning class and your Google Classroom class. And then basically we just have like a mirror of those two. So when we head back over to Google Classroom, I'm going to reload this. You'll see our new lesson has now popped up, and this is exactly how it's going to look for students. So it shows up as an assignment. So when the students open it up, and it's going to say that this is an Insert Learning assignment, and it's going to give them a unique link down here. So you notice it's an insertlearning.com link. We got the icon, we've got the title right there, but when students click that, what's going to happen is if this is their very first time using Insert Learning, it will make sure that they have the extension installed, and if they don't, it'll then prompt them to install the extension, and then it'll also have them sign in with their Google account. Now, when they're clicking from your Google Classroom class, we automatically assume that they are a student in your class. So we'll automatically make sure that they are enrolled in it. So you don't need to do any kind of like enrollment back and forth or syncing a roster. Students can just simply click that link in your Google Classroom class and we'll automatically add them to your Insert Learning one so that it shows up. Now, because I'm a teacher, this little advertisement up here is very cute and distracting. Now, because I'm a teacher, it automatically loads the teacher one for me, but I'm going to switch over to a student view. And this is what Insert Learning is now going to look like for your students. So I can go through and actually now practice this. It's about ... I'm going to go ahead and highlight something on here. And down here I'm going to, I did ... All right, there we go. And you'll notice that it automatically saves for the students too. So again, because we're kind of in this like Google Classroom world right now, students are used to everything saving, so with Insert Learning, it'll all automatically save. I'm going to go back to, well, so I'm going to show you another thing on here. So students, their toolbar is kind of the smaller, more limited one, so they can't embed questions or discussions. They do have this more options one of just simply settings, and then going to their dashboard. And then the settings, this one does the same thing. And so this is where for class, choosing classes, if students happen to have the same page or the same article assigned from multiple classes, then they'd be able to select which one. Now there is this button of mark is done. Right now, mark is done doesn't really do anything other than just simply let students know remind themselves whether or not if they've completed it. Because students also have their own InsertLearning Dashboard, and then they'll be able to see if it's done or not. I want to note though, that does not connect back up with InsertLearning or with Google Classroom. So if I close this now, we head back over here, you'll see for student work, now I have any students in this class, it won't automatically then say like turned in. So there will be that big difference there of it's not going to then like turn in assignments on Google Classroom. So students would need to go back manually and click that, or really for me, I never even bother really checking that because I'm going to be looking at all the responses anyways, and I will see what progress they're making in InsertLearning. So it's okay if they didn't really click turn in because I'm going to do all my grading and assessing in InsertLearning instead. All right, so I'm going to switch back over to the teacher view now. So I went through and I've kind of answered some of these questions as a student. And so now what that means is I can view my responses directly on the page. So I click view all responses, and then there's my student. Here's my name. You can even now give them feedback directly within InsertLearning. And again, this is separate from Google Classroom. So what this does is this will send them an email with your feedback to them. Great work. Tell me some more. And then you can go ahead and give them a score on that as well. And so then when you close that away, then it's automatically going to send your students email with that feedback that you just gave them. And you can give feedback on each question individually. I don't know if you just heard that. My phone just dinged because I just got my feedback email. So you can give students individualized feedback for each one. And then you can also look at the annotations directly on the page because you get this new icon up there. And now if I select my student, you can now see what it is that they've highlighted right here. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to show you then is I'm going to jump over to our InsertLearning Dashboard where you can do a few more things. So I'm going to go over to our dashboard. And from here now, what I want to do is I want to go to grades. I'm going to select my class. And then I'm going to go ahead and select my lesson. Now, for this one, because I was a student in my class, it didn't really, so it didn't sync up because I'm not technically a student in the class, so it doesn't show up on here, but all of your students' responses would show up in here. So this is where I do all of my grading and my viewing of my students' work and what are they understanding, because I can see everything all in one place, and that's the really one of the great things about InsertLearning. But when I'm all done, I'm going to be able to see this class average. And this is one of the other great things then is you can then submit all of your grades directly to Google Classroom. And so that will actually then populate over here of where what it does is it takes whatever their average score was out of 100%, and then it sends it to Google Classroom because we assume that the default in Classroom is 100 points. So if they got 98%, then it'll give them a score of 98 out of 100 in Google Classroom, and it will automatically populate and show up in there. Once you click this button, they'll just send all those grades over there. But again, the feedback and the comments and things like that you're doing in Google Classroom don't really sync up. So really the way that I use InsertLearning then is kind of doing those things. Now, from some of these things, then what I like to do is at say like the end of an article sometimes, if students are going to go ahead and finish early, then I'll add a little note down here at the bottom and I'll say, hey, like, okay, now what I want you to do is move on to this next lesson. And sometimes I'll give a link going back to Google Classroom, kind of prompting them of now what I want them to do next. Maybe we're going to do a reading activity, or we've got some sort of like menu of different like lessons or activities that students could do following up from that. So that's how I use InsertLearning with Google Classroom.